several other coronaviruses circulating in animals, but which are not yet infected humans. Now, SARS coronavirus epidemic that happened way back in the year 2002-2003, it caused a large-scale devastation originating in China in November 2002. It affected over 8,000 persons and led to almost 8,800 deaths in 26 countries. MERS coronavirus 2012 began in Saudi Arabia with approximately 2,500 cases and 800 deaths. And still it causes some sporadic cases now and then. So on 31st of December 2019, WHO China Country Office informed of the cases of pneumonia of unknown etiology in Wuhan city in the Hubei province of China. 7th January 2019 novel coronavirus was identified as the causative agent by Chinese authorities. The new virus was designated as severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, that is SARS coronavirus 2. On 11th February 2020, WHO named the new coronavirus disease as COVID-19. 30th January 2020, WHO declared COVID-19 as a public health emergency of international concern. If we look at this map over here, so what we see that first time this pandemic originated in the Wuhan city in the Hubei province of China. The distribution of the COVID-19 cases as of 29th of March 2020 can be seen in this slide. The various countries, areas or territories with COVID-19 cases reported in the last 7 days. If we look here, so what we see here is that most of the areas which are darkest blue, so that we can see like North America or the European countries or Middle East countries, the intensity of these cases is over 10,000 and even at places more than 50,000. In India, if we take a look over here, so what we see is it is ranging somewhere between 101 to 1,000 cases in the past 7 days. The total new cases in past 24 hours, that is as it was updated on 28th March. So what we see that over 5.7 lakh confirmed cases and over 26,000 deaths were recorded. In Western Pacific region, there were 1,01,462 confirmed cases and 3,592 deaths. In the European region, 3,24,343 confirmed cases and 18,740 deaths were recorded. In Southeast Asia region, 3,085 confirmed cases and 114 deaths were reported. On the other hand, in Eastern Mediterranean region, 38,000 plus confirmed cases and 2,500 plus deaths in the previous 24 hours. In Americas region, if we take a look over there, so what we see is over 1 lakh of the confirmed cases and over 1,485 deaths. In African region too, over 2,800 cases were confirmed and 48 deaths, and gradually it seems to be increasing. Globally, as per the WHO, the risk assessment, it is a very high risk. The global data, if we take a look again, so the coronavirus disease outbreak situation, the confirmed cases is 5,75,444. Confirmed deaths are 26,654, and this is the report from the 201 countries and regions or territories. In India, what is the situation? So what we see here is 901 active COVID-2019 cases which were reported, and 27 death cases were reported as on 29th of March 2020. Now, the state-wise status, if we see in India, so what we see that almost all the states are reporting some or the other numbers of the confirmed COVID positive cases. But the lead is taken by Karnataka, Kerala and Maharashtra, which have reported the highest number of deaths and highest number of the COVID positive cases in the country. The total number of confirmed cases in India are 1024 as on 29th of March 2020 and 96 deaths. 27 deaths. The COVID-19 deaths compared India versus Iran, Italy, Korea and Spain. If we look at this graph, so what we see is in India and also in Korea and South Korea, so the status is not so bad. The conditions are not so bad as compared to the other countries like Italy, which is peaking, thereafter followed by Spain and then followed by Iran. Now, what is the mode of transmission? That means how does the disease spread? Now, there are two theories. It might be spreading from animal to humans or human to humans. But the understanding of this mode of transmission is still not complete. So based on whatever evidence is available from the earlier experience from China and the other countries, so the animal to human transmission, initially the association with the seafood market was noticed. Then thereafter the seafood market also sold live rabbits, snakes and other animals. The initial concept was that the virus originated from the snakes, but later the studies proved that it had more similarity with the bats on the genetic makeup and also with that of the pangolins probably. The human to human transmission, that really seems to be the predominant mode of transmission. As the outbreak progressed, person-to-person transmission through droplets and fomites became the primary mode of transmission. The incubation period is presumed to be ranging from 2 to 14 days after the exposure and the median period being 5 days after the exposure. Coronavirus can live in the patients for 5 weeks after being infected. The highest number that has been recorded so far is 37 days that is reported. Now, coronavirus transmissibility, if we take a look at that, so infected droplets which are larger than 5 micrometers can travel only up to about less than 1 meter. But the aerosols, because of certain procedures, also might be generated, like for example, bronchoscopy. If in general, the coronavirus, a new coronavirus, its the particle size is less than 5 micron millimeters. So then in that case, it can travel up to more than 1 meter. That would be in the form of the aerosols, which is generally lesser, seen to be a lesser condition. But the other mode of transmission can be contact, both direct and indirect. Now, how does this transmission take place? The droplets. Infected patient, when he or she coughs, sneezes or talks, the virus is released into the respiratory secretions as droplets. These droplets can infect the others if they come in direct contact with the mucous membranes. The droplets typically do not travel distance more than 6 feet. Also, those do not linger on in the air, and hence there are lesser chances of being this particular transmission being airborne or being droplet nuclei. Patients are most contagious when they are symptomatic. Now, what is the life of the virus on the various surfaces? It has been noticed that in the air it can survive up to 3 hours. On the copper utensils or copper surfaces, the life of the virus can be up to 4 hours. On the cardboard boxes, it can be up to 24 hours. On stainless steel, it could survive up to 2 to 3 days. And on the plastics too, it could survive up to 3 days. The various other modes of transmission also have been looked at. The contact with the contaminated surfaces or the objects. On touching the surface, object having the virus on it, and thereafter touching the mouth, nose or eyes can also lead to the transmission of the virus. Now, fecal-oral route of transmission, a probability is there. It has been seen that it can survive in the guts, but the exact evidence is not yet there of its transmissibility via the fecal-oral route. Can it be passed on through a transplacental route? There are 2 instances of the neonates being affected, one in China and one in London, but still the exact whether it was before the birth, these neonates contracted the disease or after the birth, that is not yet clear. So more evidence is needed in this direction. Similarly, transmission through the breast milk, that too needs more research. Now, COVID-19, how fatal is this condition? So it looks a lot similar to the seasonal flu than to previous coronavirus outbreaks. If we look at this table, so what we see, coronavirus 19, the fatality is about 3.4%, whereas in case of seasonal flu, it is 0.1%, in SARS 10%, and in case of Middle East respiratory syndrome up to 34%. What is the case fatality as compared to the other epidemics? So if we compare with seasonal flu and measles, we see that coronavirus fatality is much higher, that is 3.4%. But as compared to SARS, smallpox, MERS or Ebola, it seems to be much less deadlier. How contagious or fatal it is? So the contagious part of it can be indicated through R naught, which is a basic reproduction number. It is a mathematical term that indicates how many people each infected person will in turn infect in a fully susceptible population. So the R naught for various epidemics as compared to COVID, if we look at that, so that would be for COVID-19 it is 2.8. That means one infected individual could infect up to 2.8, that is up to 3 individuals in turn, who in turn could infect another 3 individuals. For seasonal flu, the R naught would be 1.3. For influenza, 1.5. For SARS, 2 to 5. On an average, that could be about 3. For Middle East respiratory syndrome, 0.8. For measles, up to 15. The case fatality for COVID-19 is 3.4, and earlier as discussed, for MERS it could be up to 35%. Now, what are the clinical features or the signs and symptoms of COVID-19? So the most prominent one, the typical features would be fever, cough and breathing difficulty. The various clinical features which have been reported from the China experience, from whatever cases were there, so there is a range of signs and symptoms. It ranges from fever, cough, fatigue, sputum, breathing difficulty, body aches and pains, sore throat, chills, vomiting or diarrhea. Now the COVID-19 versus other common conditions. How the signs and symptoms vary. So if we take a look at this table, what we see is the most common features in COVID-19 would be fever, dry cough and dyspnea, which is not so in case of common cold. Headaches, aches and pains, these are common in flu, but not really in COVID-19. Sore throat, runny nose, etc. are not as common as in the conditions like flu. How severe is this condition, that is COVID-19? So that spectrum of illness can range from mild to critical. The mild cases account for up to 81% of the cases. The 14% cases would be severe, that is those cases having hypoxia, more than 50% lung involvement on imaging within 24 to 48 hours. That can be seen in 14% of the cases, and critical disease can be noticed in cases up to 5%. That is those who are involving respiratory failure, shock, multi-organ dysfunction syndrome. What are the risk factors for COVID-19? So who are the people at higher risk for the severe illness? People who are aged 65 years and above, people living in nursing homes or in the long-term facilities, people with comorbid conditions such as respiratory diseases or cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, those who are having malignancy or immunocompromised systems, and pregnant women, they also need monitoring. What are the predictors of the poor prognosis? The demographic factors, that is age of the individual, more the age, more the poorer the prognosis. In individuals who are older than 80 years, 15% of the fatality can be seen. Male gender is particularly at a risk of poor prognosis. Presence of the underlying conditions, medical conditions, diabetes, immunosuppression, etc. those are also prognostic of poor conditions, poor outcomes. Lab findings such as elevated white blood cell count, creatinine, which is elevated, uh, C-reactive proteins, LDH, severe lymphopenia. These are also indicators of poor prognosis. Now, there are certain case definitions that we ought to be aware about, like who is a suspect case? A patient with acute respiratory illness and a history of travel to or residence in a location reporting community transmission of COVID-19 disease during the 14 days prior to symptom onset, or a patient with any acute respiratory illness and having been in contact with a confirmed or probable COVID-19 case in the last 14 days prior to symptom onset, or even a patient with severe acute respiratory illness and requiring hospitalization and in the absence of an alternative diagnosis that fully explains the clinical presentation. What are the probable cases? A suspect case for whom testing for the COVID-19 virus is inconclusive, or a suspect case for whom testing could not be performed for any reason. What is a confirmed case? A person with lab confirmation of COVID-19 infection, irrespective of clinical signs and symptoms. Contact would be a person who experienced any one of the following exposures during the previous 2 days before and the 14 days after the onset of the symptoms of a probable or confirmed case. Note that for confirmed asymptomatic cases, the period of contact is measured as the 2 days before through the 14 days after the date on which the sample was taken, which led to confirmation. Now for diagnosis, how to go about it? Definitive diagnosis of COVID-19 is possible only and only with a microbiologic testing. Confirmed case, a person with lab confirmation of virus causing COVID-19, irrespective of clinical signs and symptoms, shows this statement. SARS coronavirus 2 RNA is detected by reverse transcriptase polymerase chain reaction, that is RT-PCR as the mnemonic. Regional and local health departments, they may have specific guidelines for its testing. The priority ought to be given to individuals who are hospitalized, who are with higher exposure risk, who are symptomatic with risk for poorer outcomes. Why to do this testing? So the revised strategy of COVID-19 testing in India has been, the guidelines are given by ICMR. The aim is to contain the spread of the infection and to provide reliable diagnosis to all the individuals. So all individuals need not be tested because disease is primarily reported in those individuals with travel history to the affected countries or the close contact of the positive cases. So whom to test? That is the moot question. All those symptomatic people who have undertaken international travel in last 14 days, who had come in contact with lab confirmed cases, who are healthcare workers or who are hospitalized patients with severe acute respiratory illness, or as they call it as SARI. Asymptomatic direct and high risk contacts of a confirmed case should also be tested once between day 5 and day 14 of coming in the contact. Patients who meet the criteria for testing should undergo testing for SARS coronavirus 2 and also respiratory pathogens. Recommendations for sample collection: as per ICMR, nasopharyngeal and oropharyngeal swabs are the preferred method for diagnosis. Clinician may also collect lower respiratory tract samples if these are readily available. Use appropriate PPEs for specimen collection. Like droplet and contact precautions need to be observed in case of upper respiratory tract infections, or airborne precautions for lower respiratory tract specimens. Additional specimens such as blood, stool and urine can also be collected to rule out alternative supportive diagnosis. The viral swabs should be sterile Dacron or rayon based, not cotton based, and viral transport media also should be used. How to collect the nasopharyngeal and oropharyngeal swabs? For nasopharyngeal swabbing, tilt the patient's head back by about 70 degrees. Insert the flexible swab through the nares parallel to the palate until the resistance is encountered. or the distance is equivalent to that from the ear to the nostril of the patient. Gently rub and roll the swab. Leave the swab in place for several seconds to absorb the secretions before removing the swab. For oropharyngeal swab, tilt the patient's head back by 70 degrees. Rub swab over both tonsillar pillars and posterior oropharynx and avoid touching the tongue, teeth and gums. Use only synthetic fiber swabs with plastic shafts. Place swabs immediately into sterile tubes containing 2 to 3 ml of the viral transport media. Now these are the guidelines laid down for specimen collection, packaging and transport guidelines for 2019 novel coronavirus. The requirements for clinical sample collection, packaging and transport would be sample vials and virus transport medium, adsorbent material such as cotton, tissue paper, paraffin, scissors, sellotape, etc. A leak-proof secondary containers, hard frozen gel packs for transportation, a suitable outer container. These things need to be prepared before starting with the specimen collection. What is the procedure for specimen packaging and transport? So for this, use the personal protective equipment while handling the specimen. Seal the neck of the sample vials using parafilms appropriately. Cover the sample vials using adsorbent material. Arrange primary containers appropriately. Place the centrifuge tubes inside a Ziploc pouch. Place the Ziploc pouch in turn inside a sturdy plastic container and seal the neck of the container. Using a thermocol box as an outer container and placing the secondary container within it, surrounded by hard frozen gel packs. Use a hard cardboard box as an outer container and placing the secondary container and the gel packs. Place the completed specimen referral form, which is nowadays available online and generally the patients would have filled in already. Securing the Ziploc pouch with the specimen referral form on the outer container. Now, in India, ICMR approved labs facilities are available for testing. Both government labs are there and private labs are there. In total, the government labs will be about 122, out of which 113 are operational and the rest are under operationalization. In Delhi, we have 6 such labs. The private labs in total all over the country are 47 and in Delhi we have 8 labs. So for the diagnosis of COVID-19, rapid tests are also available, but there is no definitive evidence regarding the utility of these tests. Then chest radiography, for that the findings are not specific. Normal in initial phases or mild cases. Bilateral infiltrates may be seen in the chest radiography. So chest radiography and CT scan is not really recommended because in these cases the patient may have to be moved and which can be a source of infection. Then pulmonary function test is also not advisable because there is a risk for cross infection and hence it should be avoided. Other lab investigations. Lymphopenia, it is most common. Elevated LDH, ferritin levels and aminotransferase. That also can be done. Elevated SGOT, SGPT levels is also common in these cases. Elevated urea creatinine is possible. Other investigations as in severe pneumonia like blood culture, sputum endotracheal aspirate cultures or urine Legionella antigen also may have to be tested. COVID-19 is a new disease caused by new coronavirus, SARS coronavirus 2. Primarily, it is a zoonotic disease which is prevalent in bats, pangolins, camels, cattle, etc. It is transmitted from bats to humans and probably later the evidence might suggest otherwise. Human to human transmission is predominantly happening through droplets and fomites, or that is the articles which are used by the positive cases. Elderly and having comorbidities are at a high risk. Common symptoms include fever, dry cough and breathing difficulty. Reverse transcriptase polymerase chain reaction is the confirmatory diagnostic test. So, COVID-19 is an evolving and dynamic condition. We need to understand that. There are large gaps in our understanding about several aspects of COVID-19. The natural history of COVID-19 is still not yet fully understood. Therefore, careful consideration and prioritization is suggested for optimum use of the scarce resources. Further studies are needed to understand the entire natural history and the evidence